Welcome all you lovely people to another r/malicious compliance video. Our first story of the day is by Soft Pockets, the end to a free decade of Netflix. Between 8 and 10 years ago, I received an email welcoming me to Netflix. That was a bit concerning since I hadn't signed up, so I contacted the company. They told me someone must have accidentally used my email when they created an account. Our last names were the same and our first initial. I said, "Oh, no problem. You must have additional contact info for them besides my email. Could you please remove my email from the account and let them know so they can fix?" Well, immediately that was a big problem for Netflix and, well, no, they couldn't remove the email because it was the only one they had for the account. And how did they even know that it was mine? I said, "Give me your email address and start talking. I will email you the words as they come out of your mouth." That wasn't good enough for proof somehow. More likely, I was in the other person's Gmail account asking to not have Netflix. What they finally ended up doing was changing the account password so that when the customer went to log back in, they wouldn't be able to and would need to do a password reset by calling Netflix, and then they would confirm the email address. I kept getting Netflix emails, so that didn't work. I called again, same again, didn't work. I changed the password several times myself because I could use the forgot password function and get an email to reset it. That didn't work. I don't know how they kept getting the new password without updating an email address, and I didn't really care at this point. For the last 8 to 10 years, I've had Netflix on everything I own. I have signed in on hotel televisions, used it on my phone, my Xboxes, my kid uses it. I only ever signed in under family and told him to do the same. The entire history in family is us. The other logins, Fred, Softy, and Lila, accumulated history. I would occasionally look because curious. Never did a single new show appear in the Family Watch history that wasn't because of me. Well, I woke up this morning to an email from Netflix telling me that this email address was no longer associated with that account and if I had any questions, etc. Thank you, Softy. It has been an amazing run, and I'm not sure why you gave me free Netflix for the last decade, but I think you are amazing. It's the end of an era. No more free Netflix. How many of you guys got a subscribed Netflix login that you don't personally pay for? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Girl with Swords. Too fast? You got it. I used to work for a national ISP as tech support. I was really good at my job too, because I was pretty technical even before working there. I had a decent customer service voice, and I knew how to help people fix the problem, and how to educate them to fix it on their own without calling back in the future. I was good at everything except sales. I hated sales, and couldn't bring myself to try convincing people to get a phone line when they didn't want or need it. But sales wasn't, at the time, a huge part of our metrics. And since all of my other metrics were very good, they mostly left me alone about it. I would get coaching. I even got put on a call with someone to try and teach me sales, but nothing worked. Mainly because I didn't want it to. Then they tried coming at me from a different angle. Turned out I had the shortest average call time in the entire call center. I was too efficient. Even though my customer satisfaction was high and my rate of callback was low, my calls were too short. By talking to the customer and getting to know them better, I had a better chance of selling them something. At first, I ignored them since nothing was in writing and I wasn't in trouble, but they kept bringing it up. I eventually decided to take them up on it. The next few months, I talked to people. A lot. We discussed the weather, their favorite movies, their job, or anything else that came up in conversation. I once had an hour-long conversation with someone while we checked and triple-checked each and every single piece of equipment in his house. Fascinating guy. Worked for Ma Bell back when it was first broken up. He just wanted someone to talk to and, hey, they said make my calls longer, right? My sales for that year went to 1, though I tried really hard for 0. Still, I was no longer the fastest person in the call center, but I might have been one of the friendliest. To be honest, personally, I would want somebody like OP. If I'm calling some support line, I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about any random subject that came up. I just want to solve whatever's going on with my internet or whatever and get out of there as soon as possible. This next story is by ZZYZXXIAN. Beer shake? You bet. As a teen, I worked at a fast food ice cream place. It was about a block away from a biker bar, and once in a while, one of these guys would wander down and say, "Hey, if I give you a beer, could you make me a beer shake with it?" I tell him I've made them before. They aren't very good. "I'll pay you for it. I really want to try one." Making a shake with a beer is difficult. It gets all foamy in the mixer, so I actually use only about a shot's worth of beer. I give him his shake in the leftover beer, he gives me some cash, and I ring him up while he happily sips his invention. As I give him his change, he says, "Hey, you're a good guy for making this for me. Thanks, buddy." "You bet." "Hey, could you do me a favor?" He hands me the shake minus a couple of sips. "Could you throw this away for me?" "You bet." I mean, the guy just wanted to try it, you know? You can't help but be curious, even if you say it's not that good. Sometimes you just want to experience for yourself. Sometimes you just have to experience that letdown to truly be convinced. This next story is by StormOak101. Ken can't wear women's clothing? Sure. This has been going on for a few months, and it was the highlight of a few evenings. I'm a single mom to 2 daughters, and I'm teaching them complete acceptance, unlike their father, who's not as nice. Back in February, my daughter got her first Ken doll as a gift, and after naming him and playing with him for a few hours, she wanted to change him into a little black dress. He looked gorgeous. A couple of days later, he changed into a stripy number. The same day he got changed into said stripy dress, my kid's dad video called. They were so excited to show him their dollies and all the beautiful outfits that they picked, including the stripy dress. He was mad. He accused me of confusing his kids, teaching them that it's okay to be gay, telling the kids that transgender people are normal, and a whole lot of other bigot BS. Then told me that under no circumstances could I put this doll back into women's clothing. Cue the malicious compliance. I taught my oldest daughter about being gay and that it's okay to love who you love, drag, transgenders in an age-appropriate way, and kilts. I told both my kids about their granddad who was Scottish and wore kilts for charity and was amazing. And after their approval, I began sewing tiny kilts for their Ken. Right now, he's wearing a lovely green tartan, which my daughter said was her favorite, and he hadn't worn a piece of women's clothing since. Who's this dad to tell their kids what they can and can't dress their dolls up in? Doesn't matter what implied gender the doll has, it's a doll. They're kids. It's not like they're intentionally making a political statement or something, they're just dressing a doll up. This dad is definitely making a mountain out of a molehill. Our next story is by Original Deadly Sin. Call her back for that? Okay. For a while, I worked customer service for a major life insurance company. I had a customer call in that had just received her check for payment on the policy she had on someone. Her husband, I think, but that's not important to the story. She called because the policy was for $100,000 and her check was something like $99,850, and she wanted to know why. However, she was one of those people that would ask a question, interrupt you while you were answering, and either ask it again in a different way or go off on some tangent. She wasn't a particularly polite person, and I don't think it was merely because of someone's recent death. It had been a few months and it just didn't have a bereavement feel at all, just a rude person vibe. I fully felt that she was just a rude person. Eventually, I managed to give her the answer. We had subtracted a payment that was due that month and not yet paid to us from the payout, evening everything out in one transaction. She didn't really have a problem with that answer, but she was argumentative the entire call in general and complaining about how much of a pain it is to have to call in with all these questions, which were all but one irrelevant questions that she brought up when she wouldn't let me answer. But as I was trying to get her there, she was also asking all kinds of questions about her policy, which she had in front of her. She went off on many topics, including a bunch of things not related to what we were doing. She asked about, what's this Type A policy and Type B policy? Well, those were about options you could get on the policy when you first took it out. But she didn't get either one, so they were completely irrelevant to her. But I gave her quick answers as to what they were, even though this didn't even apply to her. This call took a solid hour to give a 3-minute answer, and she was rude and angry the whole way through. I was very happy when it was over. However, 2 days later, my manager told me that he had reviewed the call for random quality control purposes, a real thing, and he noticed that when she asked about a relevant policy option she didn't have A and a relevant policy option she didn't have B, I gave the answers backwards, explained B for A and A for B. He wanted me to call her back and give her the right answers. This was utterly pointless as she already had her policy completed and closed. She wasn't looking to get a new one. This could not have affected her payout, anything whatsoever, but he was convinced we would somehow get sued or such if I didn't. Now, what makes this malicious compliance is that I knew that I could just email my manager a half an hour later, say I did it, and she was happy to hear from me. I knew he wouldn't follow up because he constantly gave us stupid things to do and never followed up. But this woman was a handful, and I also knew she wouldn't want me to call. So I did as told and called her. I told her why I was calling, and she snapped on me. Why would I possibly call her back about things that don't matter? I'm taking up her valuable time after she's already been paid. She doesn't deal with our company anymore, and here I am calling her unsolicited. You get the idea. I told her that my manager wanted me to make sure she had all the details correct because I made a mistake. And as hoped, she demanded to speak to my manager. She yelled at him for about 94 minutes by my clock about wasting her time. I'd like to be able to say that he learned a lesson and stopped giving us stupid tasks. He didn't, but for an hour and a half, he had a really rude woman scream at him over this one. I'd like to reiterate that at no point did I feel that the woman was deep in her grieving process. I really wouldn't have wanted to add on to her troubles if she was. This was a solid 6 months after that person had died, which, of course, I know may be a lot for some and not so much for others, and every vibe I got was of a rude person, not a grieving one. For the purposes of this story, can we accept this to be true? I don't want to go off on a talk about angering someone upset about a death. Calling someone after a death is a part of working in life insurance. I'd like to think I was as polite to her as I could be during the entire process. Considering how the woman was acting and the time frame in which this took place, do you think that OP acted responsibly here? Let me know what you think. And our final story of the day is by Live Life Love Lexical, ordering from a cafe menu. I have an egg allergy, so I regularly navigate cafe breakfast menus, which seem to contain almost 95% egg dishes. I hate being that person, so I try and find the easiest thing to remove the eggs from before ordering and never squabble about prices or substitutions. Or just order the toast and Vegemite. On this particular morning, I was meeting a friend for a brekkie, and while a bit hungover, I figured a greasy bacon roll was in order. Hipster waiter in his 30s arrived to take our orders. I say, "Could I please have a bacon roll?" They say, "No can do, that's not on the menu." I say, "Okay, sure, I'll rephrase my request. I'm allergic to egg, so what about a bacon and egg roll with no egg?" They say, "No can do, no changes to the menu allowed. We don't offer vegan options here." I say, "Vegan? I'm ordering a bacon roll. Nothing vegan about bacon." They say, "Yeah, it's not on the menu. What would you like instead?" I say, "Can I have the bacon and egg roll, but the egg on the side?" "Yes, no worries." When the order arrived, I picked up the bacon roll and slid the offending egg to my friend. We had a good laugh, and the waiter still couldn't work out why we were cracking up. It seems like this restaurant just wanted to go against the grain of ordering anything custom. though OP just went and played them all like a fool while hungover of all things. I don't know if it was the waiter or the restaurant trying to be so stubborn about not having any substitutions, but it ends up coming off just really jerkish. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.